sing for all that you've done for me. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Worthy is the King who conquered the grave. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Worthy is the King who conquered the grave. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Worthy is the King who conquered the grave. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain.
Worthy, worthy, worthy.
This is amazing grace. This is unfailing love. That you would take my place. That you would bear my cross. You laid down your life. That you would be set free. Oh, Jesus, I sing for all that you've done for me. Jesus, you sing for all that you've done for me. Oh yeah, Amazing Grace. Cindy's gonna do a song for you called Tremble right here, which is what the devil does, isn't it, Joe? He trembles at the name of Jesus Christ. So she's gonna sing this for you. It's a very powerful song. We did it yesterday at Bridge Ministry. It was awesome. Some of you can sit if you like or stand, just whatever you feel like doing is fine. We're a very laid back group of folks here, so enjoy, please. Tremble.
Peace, bring it all to peace. The storm surrounding me, let it break. At your name still, call the sea to still, the rage in me to still every wave. At your name, Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, you silence fear. Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus. Breathe, then call these bones to live. Call these lungs to sing once again. I will praise. Breathe, then call these bones to live. Call these lungs to sing once again. I will praise. Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, you silence fear. Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, 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 you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, you silence fear. Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, your name is a light that the shadows can't deny. Your name cannot be overcome. tremble. Jesus, Jesus. Oh. Ooh. At the mention of his name, Jesus, Jesus. Lord, have mercy. Thank you. Jesus, Jesus. I don't know about you, but I feel the Spirit. Jesus, Jesus. Oh, Jesus, Jesus. Your name. Your name is a light that the shadows can't deny. Your name cannot be overcome. Your name is alive, forever lifted high. Your name cannot be overcome. Your name is alive, that the shadows can't deny. Your name cannot be overcome. Your name is alive, forever lifted high. Your name cannot be overcome. Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. You make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus. You silence fear. Jesus, Jesus. You make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus. Oh. Just a little bit more, Frankie. Jesus, Jesus. Oh, what a wonderful Sunday school this morning. Jesus, Jesus. Something Sean said. Jesus, Jesus. The Holy Bible, and it stuck with me, is God's love letter to us. And just like any other love letter that you get from your spouse or your boyfriend or your girlfriend, or maybe even a love letter from your kids, do you take the time to read it? And do you go back over it and go back to it? And do you keep it and do you hold it close to your heart? Because as it was said in Sunday school this morning, you grow closer to God when you stay in the Word and you keep feeding yourself the Word. And at the mention of his name, the enemy trembles. But he can't tremble if you're not equipped. He can't tremble if you're not in the Word. He can't tremble if you don't know the Word. He can't tremble if you cannot share that Word with others and bring others to Christ. It was a wonderful Sunday school lesson this morning. Jesus, Jesus. Oh, thank you, Jesus. Jesus, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Jesus, Jesus. Jesus, Jesus.
You send a big hand. Give the Lord a big hand right here this morning. Hey, you can't be tearing equipment up. That's all we got. Just checking. You guys did a great job. Thank y'all so much for being up here this morning and doing God's work. It was a little cold yesterday, a little wet downtown at the Bridge Ministry, but we had a good time. And my attitude is that those folks can come off the streets and come to the service down there, and we can go give them 2 or 3 hours of our time. And if you really want to experience what they're experiencing, just stay out in the cold and wet with us, and you know what they feel like. If you can do that, then you're truly following God, if you ask me. Just my opinion. I'm old school, Hills, Virginia, South Georgia boy, whichever. That's where I'm from. And you do what you got to do to make it work. You got that video that I asked you about? No, you don't. Of course you do. Go ahead and play that. This is something I saw this morning while I was in my office praying back there today. And I want to play this for you because I heard last night about he knew my name.
This song they're going to do first. And we were out in Colorado, and the pastor, after the Tuesday night service, we were eating supper. The pastor started telling us about the music he was looking for to go along with the message he was wanting to preach. And he came across the song entitled "He Knows My Name." He said, the pastor said, I was sitting there watching it on my computer and crying like a baby, thinking about this great God who stepped out on nothing to make everything. Takes time to know me and know me by name. He said it wasn't just a couple weeks later. He went out to California, out to West Coast. He said, I'm there to preach a chapel service, and I'm sitting on the platform with the vice president of the college, and he said, I know nobody there with the exception of a couple of students from my church have no clue who I am. He said, to make matters worse, the vice president leans over during the song service and says, now, sir, what's your name? He said, I lean over and tell him what my name is and start crying like a baby, thinking nobody here has a clue who I am, but there's a God in heaven who knows who I am and where I am. That happened on Tuesday night. They went back in the auditorium, the kids did, and they learned it and was going to surprise the pastor with it on Wednesday. Wednesday afternoon, I get a call, and it's the youth pastor of the New Manna Baptist Church in Marion, North Carolina, whose youth choir was singing it for this preacher. And I tell him the story that I just shared with you, and he said, man, it seems like that song has been blessing a lot of people. He said, it hadn't been just a couple of weeks ago, we had a missionary to Mexico in our church. Sunday night, Wednesday night, I can't remember what he said. He said, but our youth choir just happened to be singing that song, He Knows My Name. Said this missionary right in the middle of the song jumps up off the front row and interrupts the whole service. Says he starts talking to the youth choir. Says, young people, that may be just a bunch of words to you, he said, but it's real to me. He said, we were in Mexico just a few weeks ago, driving back into the city where we're missionaries to. And he said, as we got closer to the entrance of the city, we noticed a roadblock. He said, I was the third car in line to go through the entrance of the city. He said, this roadblock contained men in mass, automatic weapons, assault rifles, the drug cartel. He said, we watched as they went to the very first car, 2 cars ahead of me, and they jerked the man out of that car, and they beat him to death right there on the side of the road. He said, they went to the next car, they jerked that man out, and they beat him to death. He said, I knew I was next, nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. He said, I watched as a man in a mask come to my door, reach for the handle, let it go, and walk on by. He said, we just happened to be listening to He Knows My Name. He said, they went to the 4th car and the 5th car. They jerked those men out and they beat them right there on the side of the road. And he said, about that time we heard sirens coming up behind us. He said, it was the police. He said, a gunfight ensued between the police and the drug cartel. He said, bullets were flying everywhere. Those automatic weapons were going off. He said, I didn't want to be hit or my family to be hit by stray bullets. He said, the only thing I thought to do was to jerk my family out of the car and roll over in the ditch. He said, during all the melee of getting out of the car, somebody must have hit repeat on the CD player. He said, for 7 hours as we laid with our head to the ground during that gunfight, we listened to He Knows My Name. He said, I didn't know how this thing was going to turn out, didn't know what was going to happen, but I knew there was a God in heaven who knew who I was and where I was. And child of God, I don't know what's going on in your heart and mind tonight, don't know what's going on in your life, but I do know there's a God in heaven who says, come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I'll give you rest. And this same God says, casting all your cares upon me. This same God says, for my sheep hear my voice, and they know me. Whatever's going on in your life, no matter what kind of storm you're in, there's a God who says, peace be still to the storm. No matter what kind of valley you're walking through, this same God says, I'm the lily of the valley. Child of God, He knows you by name, and He has your best interest in heart. You listen to these kids, they learn this song, and it blessed me up one side and down the other. He knows my name. You listen as they sing.
Stars running all much sand is on the shore, sees every sparrow that falls. He made the mountains and the seas. He's in control of everything, of all creatures great and small. And he knows my name, every step that I take, every move that I make, every tear that I've cried. He knows my name when I'm overwhelmed by the pain, can't see the light of day. I know I'll be just fine, 'cause he knows my name. Don't know what tomorrow will bring, I can't tell you what's in store. I don't know a lot of things. I don't have all the answers to the questions of my life, but I know in him I have believed. 'Cause he knows my name, every step that I take, every move that I make, every tear that I've cried. He knows my name when I'm overwhelmed by the pain, can't see the light of day. I know I'll be just fine, 'cause he knows my name. He knew who I was when he carried my cross. He knew that I would fail him, but he took the loss. And he knows my name, every step that I take, every move that I make, every tear that I've cried. And he knows my name when I'm overwhelmed by the pain, can't see the light of day. I know I'll be just fine, 'cause he knows my name. Don't know what tomorrow will bring, I can't tell you what's in store. I don't know a lot of things. I don't have all the answers to the questions of my life, but I know in him I have believed. 'Cause he knows my name, every step that I take, every move that I make, every tear that I've cried. He knows my name when I'm overwhelmed by the pain, can't see the light of day. I know I'll be just fine, 'cause he knows my name. He knew who I was when he carried my cross. He knew that I would fail him, but he took the loss. And he knows my name, every step that I take, every move that I make, every tear that I've cried. And he knows my name when I'm overwhelmed by the pain, can't see the light of day. I know I'll be just fine, 'cause he knows my name. Every step that I take, every move that I make, every tear that I've cried. He knows my name.
We're gonna let God's love continue to work right now. You never know what God has in store for your life. If you got anything weighing you down today, just bring it to the altar. If we need to come to you and pray, we will. You don't have to have a really big crowd to feel the Spirit of the Lord, because He's here this morning again. It's kind of strange, isn't it there, Joe? But it's not, because every time we come in here, He's always present, no matter what you go through. He's here this morning. Yes, sir. Father was here last night. Thank you, Joe. That's awesome. You feel the Spirit of the Lord like we did last night and this morning. It's incredible. When they get through at the altar, I'm going to do something. You just need to experience it like I did last night about 11 o'clock. So it's awesome. God is so good. So good. Bring that down just a little bit, all right? Last night, me and my dear friend here, she called me, and we just got home from an awesome Thanksgiving meal we had here last night. All those people showed up. It was pretty cool, wasn't it? Just a little bit of food, wasn't it? Yeah. So she called me last night. We had a long discussion, and I got the Bible out like I was supposed to, Joe, and we read some scriptures, and I think we were in Ephesians, we were in 1 Corinthians. We were all over the place last night. And we just started talking, and we tried to love her on the phone. Sean and I prayed with her last night. And y'all know Teresa. Everything she does as best she can. She helps anybody and everybody. And what a lot of people may not stop and realize, when you do so much for everybody else, it takes a toll on you. But last night, Teresa on the phone, I love you. She rededicated her life to Christ last night. Okay? That's strong. And she said she wants to be there all the time for him. And she knows that he loves her, and we're just so proud of you, okay? So I'll give her a really big hand, would you please? Peggy, you asked for this. I'm going to go ahead and do it now. Another place, oh, another town, a different crowd, and a brand a stage. Oh, the spotlight is on me. Oh, I get to choose to keep it there or point it to you. I want my stage to be an altar, so all the praise goes to the Father. And if I get selfish and I make this life all about me, Lord, please, I want my stage to be an altar. Alarm goes off, oh, to start the day. Each child of God, will they take their stage? Well, it might be at school or a job somewhere. This world could change if it were our prayer. Well, I want my stage to be an altar, so all the praise goes to the Father. And if I get selfish and I make this life all about me, Lord, please, I want my stage to be an altar. Some perform to thousands and some to just a few, but the numbers aren't important, just gotta do what we can do. Then one day when we see Jesus and we touch his nail-scarred hands, he's gonna tell us how our little lives were such a big part of his plan. I want my stage to be an altar. Praise goes to the Father. Oh, and if I get selfish and make this life all about me, Lord, please, I want my stage to be an altar. I want my stage to be an altar. I want my stage to be an altar. I'll get right there. I just got to say this. I get choked up singing sometime, and I'm not apologizing. I'm just saying it touches my heart to see what happens with people. I don't care what time of day or night it is. It's just awesome. Yesterday was awesome. Today's awesome. Last night was awesome. Shirley, you wanted to say something?
Some of y'all have known me for quite a while. About a month or two, I read something that says that God does not give people words for individuals. I disagree truly, because I know God gives me words, because I'm not a person that stands up and talks in front of people. But there's somebody in here, 2 or 3 people that's got something on their heart that's weighing very, very heavy. And I'm telling you right now, personal experience is that if you got that burden, you need to let it go and let God take care of it. Because a lot of people see this smiling face most of the time, but I'm carrying burdens, and I've found that if I don't give them to God, I'm a total disaster, other than I usually am. But I'm telling you right now, you carrying that burden here today, whatever it is, you need to bring it to this altar. when we have altar call or whatever, but release it, let God take care of it. And God will give you a word. We just have to be still and listen sometimes. Do not be afraid to bring it forth. Because as big as my mouth is at times, I was afraid for a long time. But if God gives me something, I'm going to give it.
Thank you, Miss Shirley. Y'all know Miss Shirley. She gets in the spirit. I'm going to give you some announcements, and we're going to move on because I want to get Casey up here to do what we brought her here to do today. But tonight we have another service at 5 o'clock, and then Escape Your Prison right after that. Also, we've got Bible study on Tuesday nights at 6:30. Still in Proverbs, right? Yep. What chapter? Hey, it's not me this time. 26. I can have 26. You'll think you're right. And then on Thursday night, we have Breaking Point, Celebrate Recovery meeting on Thursday night at 6:30. And that I'm going to tell you something, Joe. God's been moving all week in this church. So Thursday night was incredible, too, man. It was just, it's been phenomenal all week long. So we want to thank him for being present in our life. Also, be sure that you listen out for our radio commercials and look at our little things we're going to put up, what's going to go on in December. What's her name? Cindy? Yeah, I'm just kidding. Cindy's got a phenomenal Christmas program planned this year, and some special guests coming, and you do not want to miss that. What's the date going to be? The 22nd. That night, or that day.
It's that evening, it'll be at 5 o'clock. And actually, we are going to be gifted with the gift of Mary coming to speak to us. I know that sounds crazy, but the ministry that this young lady provides, I mean, I've not seen her in the character of Mary, but I've been told we're going to have to bring food to her. And after that, there's a host of songs we're going to do. It's going to be a very special Christmas. And the actual title of our night is A Baby Jesus. So if you want to know what all that is all about and what it means, then I suggest you come here. Because it's going to be a night that's going to be absolutely unbelievable. We're very blessed that we get this company here. And the praise team will be playing music. We've got Jerry coming that night as well. Please, bring your friends after. And then on the 15th was the 21st. We're going to do some Christmas caroling. We changed the venue lunch to go to eat here. We're going to do some Christmas caroling. I'm sorry, we're missing something.
Not a word.
So it's been a long time since I've been Christmas caroling, so I'm excited about it. And the kids, they're having fun. We've been gifted, the church has been gifted with $100 for the Christmas special. We use that for caroling, and we've also been gifted with some caroling books. So we have the words, we'll have to guess, and we're going to need all the adults to help these kids learn the songs.
Tell all your friends, everybody, family, please get them to come, especially for that night. And if you want us to come to your house and sing at your front door, we will. But Angela said she would be in front singing with us, right? Can you come up here so I can sing happy birthday to you, please? No? You want me to just come back there and do it? I can get Frankie to sing it. You better come up here. He does pretty good, though. I've been listening to him lately. Come on up. It's okay. You apologize one more time, we're going to put you in timeout. Amen. Amen. Your husband and your church pastor done told you so. Okay.
Leave me alone, okay?
We're going to, y'all give me that 20 you're going to give me for doing this. Huh? We're going to sing happy birthday to you. You're, heard you were 18 today. Forgive me, Lord, I didn't mean to tell that one. We're going to sing happy birthday to you right now, so y'all sing along with me, okay? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Angela. Happy birthday to you. Y'all give her a big hand? Yay, yay, yay. Up, up. How many more do we want to give her? Well, let's ask. Frankie, how many do you think she needs to have? And a whole lot more. Happy birthday, Angela. We love you so much. Appreciate it. That's awesome. Happy birthday, Mommy. Well, we know that one's yours. Okay, we're going to participate in our prayer request right now. Thomas, you got, or one of you got it? this morning. So what's that last one again? Proudy. It's okay. You know what? They didn't tell me. I didn't get that in the footnotes. I do apologize, my friend. Yeah, I didn't. You know, I'm just going to be real honest with you. When I was in the club business, I looked at hands for rings. But since I've been in the ministry, I don't look at hands for rings anymore. Because, woo, all right, God, get me out of this one now. It'll be a good time. Anyway, Casey is an awesome lady. You're going to enjoy this. I promise you. Don't go anywhere. If you do, I'm going to lock that door and keep you here. Right, Joe? You got that on?
Yeah, I just remember.
Can you hear her?
Okay. Can y'all hear me? No? Yes, no, maybe? I mean, I talk loud, so
Yeah, she
I
does.
might not need a mic.
It's okay. Well, if you do, you can have this and turn it on to the bottom.
I might not need it. I might not need a mic. So, those of y'all who don't know me, which I think majority of the congregation would be, my name is Casey Proudy. I've been very, very, very good friends with Miss Sean's oldest daughter, Amber, for a very long time. They've been in my life for a very long time, and they're very, very special people to me. So I appreciate y'all letting me come and speak. I like to talk, so I'm going to try not to take much of y'all's time because Pastor Bill put me on time crunch. So basically the reason that I'm here is to explain I am a walking, breathing definition of if you want to hear God laugh, tell him your plans. I've been making him laugh for a long time, and I'll explain to you why. So when I graduated high school, or was getting ready to graduate high school, I had a plan. Everybody has a plan, right? I'm going to go to college, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and whatever. So here's my plan. My plan was I was going to graduate high school in the top 10% of my class. I was going to go to college and be a nurse. I was going to get married, and, you know, to somebody who was 3 to 5 years older than me with no kids, and, you know, we were going to date a year, and we were going to be married a year, and then we were going to have our own kids, and I wanted kids before I was 30, and, you know, I was going to have the fairy tale marriage that, you know, is on Instagram and Facebook, and everybody's happy-go-lucky, and yeah, that was my plan, right? So let me tell you what I got. I did not graduate in the top 10% of my class. I was in the top 50%. I was not in the top 10%. I am not a nurse. 5 years after I graduated, I did get my certified nurse's assistant certificate, but I am not a nurse, and being a CNA convinced me that I do not want to be one either. I did get married. I got married 5 years ago to someone who is 11 and a half years older than me, not 3 to 5. He also had a son when I met him. We did not date a year. We dated 8 months. He proposed. We were engaged for 7 months. We got married. We were married for 3 months, and I got pregnant. So a total of about 18 months took me from single to mom. So the best story that I can give you about God's timing, though, is my marriage story. And for those of y'all who have not met him, you will at some point. He's in the second row. My husband, Jeff, is sitting up here this morning. My redheaded youngin' is also upstairs. If you haven't met him, if you have, you would know because he talks like his mom. So, and he'll tell you who he is and what his name is and how old he is and who his parents are and what he's got and what he's wearing. And you have to tell him, please go hush and sit down. He's mine. He gets it honest. Right? So, again, my plan was to get married, have kids before I turned 30, whatever. I didn't want to be an old mom. So I met my husband very unconventionally. Nowadays, it's kind of the norm, but at the time it was not, online, on one of what we both agree is one of the biggest jokes of an online dating website that we've probably ever been on. I would not have found him. He found me, and he found me. He was not in my search because, as I said, I was searching for somebody who was between 3 and 5 years older than I was, had no children, And God sent me the polar opposite of exactly what I asked for. We talked on the phone for about a week, and then we met in person. I was late. He'll never let me live it down. The very first time we met, I was late. And from that point on, I never not wanted to see him again. My husband has had a wide array of jobs in his past, most of which overlapped in Aiken, South Carolina, which is where I'm from. At the time that my high school was being remodeled, my husband was probably one of the painters in there that was painting. I took a job as an office manager at a physical therapy clinic, and when we opened our new clinic, it just happened to be in the exact same office building that my husband worked as a respiratory tech years before. My husband calls it symmetry. Most of our history is symmetry. Met my husband. Like I said, we dated about 8 months, and he proposed. Probably because I kept telling him that my ring finger was really light and it kept floating away. We met. We were in church every Sunday in Aiken. He was there when he was not working. So I tell you that to tell you this. When I was 27-ish, right? I worked for the Aiken County school system. I was a preschool special ed aide. I worked with children who had autism and learning disabilities, that kind of thing. They were 3, 4, and 5-year-olds. I left my job at the school system in November of 2012. December 19th of 2012, my family lost our house to a house fire. Sorry. July of 2013, this Sunday after we moved into our brand new house, I met a fireman with a son who has autism. See, you get it. He is the most amazing man I've ever met. If you've never met a fireman, your definition is up front. Met my husband. Again, we dated 8 months. He proposed. We got married in October of 2014. October of 2015, I had my son. We had an anniversary, and 2 weeks later, I had a child. So, not my plan, not even close to my plan. Nothing that I could have planned. And it's the polar opposite of everything that I said. I'm going to do X, Y, Z. And God said, no, I got a different plan for you. Because if I hadn't listened to that plan, I would not have my husband, would not have my son. And so I tell you that, again, to tell you this. When I had my son, I wanted 2 kids before I turned 30. I'm 34. I turned 30 July of 2015. I had a son October of 2015. So not only was I already 30 when I had my child, I also did not have 2 before I turned 30. So I had my son after I turned 30. We wanted 2. I wanted him to be, my brother and I are 2.5 years apart. My husband and his brother are 4 years apart. And we knew that we wanted them close in age. Because my stepson is 15 years and 4 days older than my 4-year-old. So we knew we wanted them close in age. And instead of having 2 children, I have a stepson, a son, and 2 angel children. In April of this year, we had our first miscarriage, which we were not even aware at the time that I was pregnant. We just happened to find out because I had my yearly appointment, and they do blood work at your appointments, and she called me the next day and said, hey, P.S., you're pregnant. And 2 days later, I was not. July 5th of this year, we had our second one. I actually found out I was pregnant then on my own, told my husband. My husband went to work, told his friends. I called my mom. I called Amber. She was actually the first person that I sent a text message to because I took a pregnancy test and thought I was hallucinating, and I sent it to her and I said, hey, I just need your opinion. You've done this a few times, so I need to know, do you see the second line or am I hallucinating this? She said, oh no, that's positive. 2 days later when my husband come off shift, it was not. So it's not about our time. It's not about what you want. We don't have a fairy tale marriage. My husband will tell you the same thing. It's not easy. Marriage is not easy. I wouldn't change a day of it. Marriage is work. It's hard, but it's fun. My husband makes it fun. He knows how to make me laugh. My son knows how to make me laugh. It's not about our time. Nobody plans to lose their house in a house fire either. It was my parents' house. I was living with them at the time. I was on my 3rd day of a new job, and I was out on my lunch break, and I worked right up the street from my grandparents, my mom's parents. I'm very, very close with my mom's parents, so I used to go down the road to my grandmother's house. She used to fix me lunch every day. There is nothing better on a cold day than my grandmother's grilled cheese, and I will fight tooth and nail anytime I can have one. So I was down at her house. My dad called me and said, hey, what are you doing? I said, I'm on my lunch break. I'm at Mima's. He said, you probably need to come home. I said, why? What's the matter? And at the time, my mom suffers from really, really bad migraines. And at the time, she had been having some real issues with migraines, and the first thought that I had was something's wrong with my mom, right? So he said, you probably need to come home. And I said, well, why? What's the matter? And he says, our house is on fire. I had my cousin's little girl in my lap at the time, and I sat her down and I told my grandmother I got to go. Hindsight's 20/20. You don't run out of your grandmother's house and say, Mima, I got to go. My house is on fire, and not tell her anything else. That will come back to bite you. So don't do that. Bad choice on my part. So I left, went home. My dad happened to be at my brother's that day, fixing something. My brother was at work, so nobody was home. Our neighbor got a knock on the door from a girl who happened to ride my bus back in high school, who knew whose house it was, but did not know the name of the street that she was on. She backed up, she went to our neighbor's house, and she said, can you tell me what the name of the street is I'm on? The house next door is on fire. And ran into her 2 weeks later at the job that I was at when she came in to pay some taxes. I was in there. I worked at the tax assessor's office for a little while. She came in there, and I found out then that it was her that called 911. My neighbors went and got our dog out of the yard. My mom was at a Christmas party for the job that she had that day. Some friends of my brother's worked at the dispatcher's office, and they called my brother's friend who worked with my mom at the time and said, I think that's Cody's mom's house. And they asked my mom, Miss Donna, what's your address? And she told them. And they said, I think your house is on fire. She said, what? I think your house is on fire. My mom left. My dad was there. Many fire trucks, firemen, ambulances were there. I pulled up. My sister-in-law wasn't far behind me. She pulled up. My brother wasn't far behind her. He come, and there we were, in front of a house that we'd lived in for 20 years, I think, at this point, if I remember right, with nothing but the front wall left. So for my parents, that was 30 years of marriage and 2 grown children worth of stuff. I will say, as we were going through it, we found my mom's wedding dress, untouched, in the back bottom closet of the one wall that was not burned. Untouched. No soot, no water damage, nothing. That dress is still in her spare room right now on a dress form, just like mine is. Now, my mom had spent many years trying to renovate that house to make it what she wanted it to be. She had just, I don't know, maybe a few months before, finished redoing the kitchen. Brand new cabinets, beautiful. She put a front porch on it. We've redone the back porch. And now all of this was on the ground. Many people have asked me if my husband was one of the firemen that was there that day, and he was not. That just would have added to our story, but he did not work for Aiken County. He is the fireman for Columbia County on this side of the river. He was not there, but he has heard the story many, many times. He knows the process and procedures that are required when you pull up to a house that is on fire. So it's not our time. My parents now have a beautiful home. They got to design it. They did the floor plan. They drew it up how they wanted it to be, sitting on that exact same lot. There's a Bible in the foundation under the front door. And if you ever got to see our house before it was finished, there are prayers and scriptures written through that entire house, on the floors, on the walls, on the beams in the walls. Every door says, bless all who enter and exit here. Every door. And they say that a lot of times in house fires, the one thing that doesn't burn is the Bible. The one thing that we found in the room where the fire started, where there was nothing left but the metal frame of a couch, was my mom's grandmother's Bible. Untouched. Now, it was 6 days before Christmas. On the one year that I remember, my mom got all of her Christmas shopping done early. Everybody's presents were under the tree. She was excited. I don't have to do any Christmas shopping. I don't have to get out in this Christmas mess. I'm done. And we spent Christmas that year at my brother's house because we didn't have one. And we spent that Christmas more blessed than any Christmas that we've had with presents under the tree. We had strangers who stopped by who saw the house. My dad's truck was still parked there that night, and we showed up the next day. There was a note on my dad's truck that said, I drove by and saw the house. I'm not sure if you have children, but we have beds and clothes that we can donate. If you need them, here's our phone number. Everybody that my dad worked with donated money. I've never seen that much money come out of that business, ever. Like I said, I was still brand new on the job that I had, but that office fed us probably 2 or 3 nights in a row because they were getting ready to do their Christmas potlucks and all that stuff. So every time they had some kind of party or somebody brought something in, there was a plate that came to our house for our family. And then I met my husband. And if you don't know what fire is, my husband can tell you. My husband is an amazing man. I never would have found him. He was not in my search criteria. And I can say this in front of him because him and I have always had this conversation. It's a joke between us now. He is not what I was looking for. I was looking for something specific. And I remember having a conversation with my mom not long before him and I met. And I said, I wanted kids before I was 30. I was like, for that to happen, I need to meet somebody now so that we can, date a year. And, I want to be married at least a year before I have kids. And that's not going to happen if I want kids before I'm 30. But it wasn't supposed to. I had my son right after I turned 30. And compared to some laborers, his was decently short. But God, was he a stubborn child. If you know his mom and dad, he gets it honest. I went into labor twice early. One of them was the day of my only baby shower. The only baby shower I had, I missed it. My husband was on shift. I was at home alone with my stepson, who at the time was 15. You want to know how to scare a child? Who also does not process things the way that we do? Tell him, go get my phone and call your dad and unlock the door. I didn't know if I was going to need an ambulance or if my husband was going to make it in time to be able to take me to the hospital. But I knew that I was in labor because I had already been through this once before. Missed my baby shower. My husband told his lieutenant at the time, I gotta go. Went to the hospital, called my mom. My mom's on her way. Bless my dad to this day. He ran my baby shower like a champ. It was a drop-in. Some friends of my mom and dad actually hosted it for us, but it was at my mom and dad's house. My dad told everybody, he had his speech down when he came in. Y'all come in, grab a cupcake. The mom-to-be's not here. Enjoy yourself. Gifts go on that table over there. Ran it like a champ. Love my dad. I'm a daddy's girl to this day. My husband can attest to that too. Missed my baby shower. A couple weeks later, went back to the doctor, and she said, he's good to go. He can come anytime now, and we won't stop the contractions. Okay, cool. This should be easy because I've been in labor twice early already. Nope. He never moved from that point. Never moved. He didn't drop, he didn't twist, he didn't turn, he didn't do anything. He just stayed right there. Stubborn child. So, I got down to where I was going to the doctor every week, and every week I saw her. She said, I don't think you're going to make it to next week. I can feel his head, so you'll be in labor soon. Okay, cool. And every week I showed up and said, so here we are. Still no baby, still no labor. You said I wouldn't make it to this week. What are we doing? She induced me. I was in labor for 12 hours. 12 hours. And Wyatt's heart rate dropped down to 34. And they decided then that it was probably time to get him out. So they pulled him out. He was a C-section baby. My husband and my mom were there. I remember my husband stood up and I said, what are you doing? And he says, well, they're pulling him out. And I said, so don't watch it. Meanwhile, little to my knowledge, my mother was leaned around my husband with her camera. The anesthesia tech behind me at the time took her camera from her and took pictures over my sheet. Anybody who's ever seen or been in a C-section knows you got this big sheet in front of you. So he was taking pictures this way, and I was like, well, okay. They pulled my son out, and the first thing that you hear from the entire OR is, but my husband is smiling. I knew there wasn't a problem because my husband would not have been smiling if there was a problem. The problem was this child was huge. He was not going to be a natural delivery if his heart rate hadn't have dropped. He was 9 pounds, 8 ounces, and 21 and a half inches long. He is currently 4 years old and 44 and a quarter inches tall and in the 99th percentile for height. He grows an average of 1.5 to 2 inches a year and is the size of a 6-year-old. So again, if you didn't see my husband before he sat down, my husband is 6'3". My stepson, who is now 19, is 6'2". And I don't think he's done growing yet. So they're going to be tall. He's going to be eye level to me when he goes to kindergarten. I've already accepted it. It's totally fine. Totally fine. So I tell you that to tell you this. It's not our time. Nobody plans to lose children. The last people that ever planned to lose children was my husband and I. It took me, I don't know, 0.5 seconds to get pregnant with my son. And we just figured it was going to be that easy to get pregnant with the next one. Sorry. I had a plan. My babies were supposed to be 2 to 4 years apart. It's not God's plan. So now in October, we light candles for 2 children that we never got to meet. But one day we will. We found out that my son, as a medical term that my doctor used, was technically a fluke. Why it should not be here. We did not know that at the time. We did not know how incredibly special and how much of a miracle he actually was when we conceived him. We were newly married. We were just, I got pregnant. We were excited. We didn't know that it was not actually supposed to happen. I've been diagnosed with a couple of medical issues that make it extremely hard to get pregnant on our own. And the only explanation that they can give me for why Wyatt is here is because I was on birth control for many, 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 many years before he came. And when I stopped taking it, my body basically went into shock. And my son appeared. It has not been the case in the last couple years. We decided when he was 18 months old that maybe we were ready for another one. And he is just turned 4, and we still don't have another one. So it's not our time. It's not based on your timing. Romans 8:18 says, the pain that you've been feeling cannot compare to the joy that's coming. And I have leaned on that for a while. My husband is one of the most amazing people that can show you the positive in anything. Things that I never would see, and he'll tell you, I call him a lot. and say, this is what I'm doing, and this, I need your opinion. Like, I don't know, because he sees things differently than the way that I see them. You can show up at my house on any given night and hear me singing You Are My Sunshine to my son. I've sung that to him since I was pregnant with him, and he knows the words. But I've always said that my husband was my sunshine. He still is. He knows how to find the sunshine when there's a lot of clouds. John 13:7 says, you may not understand what I'm doing, but someday you will. And that's my hope. So one day I'll understand why things happen the way that they happen. I've never considered myself a very strong person until you lose 2 children and you have to explain to your 4-year-old that he's not going to be a big brother. Not yet. Luke 1:37 says, faith does not make things easy, it makes them possible. That one I think speaks for itself. And Exodus 14:14 says, the Lord will fight for you, you need only be still. My husband will tell you that that is one of my biggest hurdles. I do not know how to be still. If you meet my son, neither does he. I always say, I don't want to worry about things. I don't want to worry about them. I want to just give them up and say, here, have them. You do this. You use me how you need to use me. Anybody who's a mom knows that you don't ever stop worrying. It doesn't go away. But my worry shifts to my husband and my son instead of myself, because as moms, that's what we do, right? So again, it's not our time. And I don't mean to cry. I'm a very, very emotional person. My husband will tell you that too. I cry over everything, good, bad, or ugly. So I want you to understand that I know most of the time when people have a testimony, they tell you, you know, I did this and I did that and I ended up at rock bottom and God pulled me out of the bottom and, you know, here I am. And I don't have a story like that. That's not my story. But my story is a walking definition of the fact that our time means nothing. Our plan means nothing. I'm not saying you shouldn't have dreams. I dreamed to be a nurse, right? I also realized when I got in college that nobody tells your parents when you don't show up for class. I'm not saying don't have dreams. I'm not saying go after goals. I'm not saying any of that. I'm saying it doesn't really matter what you plan, because the plan that God has is going to come to fruition, if you will, regardless of what you do in the process. I never would have met my husband. Never. I never would have met my husband. I wasn't looking for him. He knows that, if I can tell him that. I wasn't looking for him. But he'll also tell you he wasn't looking for me. He wasn't looking. He found me, not because he was looking for me, not because I came up in a search bar, not because he thought my picture was cute, but he found me. My husband will also tell you that he was not in a great place when we met either. When we met, my husband did not want to get married again, and he did not want any more children. And then he met me. And again, I can say that in front of him because this is a conversation that him and I have had many times. It's not anything he wouldn't tell you himself. Because I wouldn't do that. But he wasn't looking for me. I wasn't looking for him. He was the exact opposite of everything I was looking for. And when I sit down and I think about our past and how many times our paths have actually crossed that we were never aware of. Never aware of. He was in my high school working when I was there. His job was in an office building that I ended up working in many years later. Where my parents live, many of his respiratory tech trips have gone right past my parents' house. When my husband proposed, he went to the same fire department that put out our house fire. My mom convinced me that we were celebrating the anniversary of my grandmother's strokes. She'd had 3 strokes at that point. We were going to have dinner. My grandparents, my mom, dad, my brother, and now sister-in-law were there. My husband convinced me that he was working an overtime shift. And when I got off work, I thought it was odd that he kept asking me on the phone, well, where are you? Which way are you going home? Well, just where are you? And I'm like, what do you mean where am I? I go this way home like every day. We know this. So we're sitting down having dinner, and a fire truck rolls up in our driveway. Anybody who's lost a house in a house fire, it's not what you want to see. The guys get out, they come to the door. The one who come to the door, who I know well now, but had not met at the time, told my mom that they got a call from the alarm company that there was a fire alarm going off. Now, I can tell you now that I was not even paying attention to the fact that we didn't have an alarm company. But that is what they said. They went into where the breaker box was to look at something. I did not know at the time that I was standing less than a foot away from my now husband, who was in full gear and a mask. If you've ever seen firemen in their full gear, you have no idea who they are. But I know now, after talking to him, that he also kept turning because their names are on the back of their gear. So he kept turning when I would get close so that I didn't see his name, know who he was. My dad come up with some line about go in our room and see if that main fire detector is blinking red. So I did what I was told. Went in there and come out, and there was a fireman in full gear with no mask on his knee with a ring in his hand, in the middle of this new house that, as my mom calls it, a great mess to greatness, in the middle of the new house that was built after we'd lost everything. That's my favorite story to tell. Because again, I was not looking for him. Nor was he looking for me. But he found me. And I don't think that our paths crossing in the past are a coincidence. I don't think that the way things happened was a coincidence. I said I wanted to have kids before I turned 30, and I turned 30 and then had a kid 6 months later. It's not about our time. I was convinced when I met my husband that Prince Charming was not coming. I saw a thing online that said, my Prince Charming's on his way. He just, he got lost and turned around, and he's a man, so he didn't ask for directions. My husband didn't need directions. He came straight to me. We don't have a fairy tale marriage, but our marriage is perfect for us. It works. He loves me. unconditionally as I do him. And it's fun. It's not about our time. So I don't have a story of coming back from the bottom of the barrel. But I do have a story about God's timing being perfect. It wasn't perfect for me. It wasn't my plan. It wasn't my timing. It wasn't the timeline that I put out. It wasn't what I said I wanted. But what I wanted didn't matter. Because in the end, he sent me who I need. I've never needed anybody more than I need my husband or my son. I have a tattoo on my arm. Well, I have one on both arms, but I have a tattoo on my arm. That's the birth flower of my son. And just recently, we had 2 babies' breath added to it for the 2 that we lost this year. And I've had a lot of people ask me, if you're a Christian, why do you have tattoos? Your body's supposed to be a temple. I know that. Mine's just decorated. It doesn't change who I am. It doesn't change what I believe. It doesn't change how I feel. But it's not our time. And when it is, everything will come full circle again, and I'm sure there will be some other piece of symmetry that my husband will pull and say, well, you know, the other piece of symmetry I'll give you at the end, and I promise this will be the last thing, is this. We had our housewarming for our new house when we built it. And it wasn't until Wyatt was almost 2 that I realized something. If you know us, you know we love a good koozie. We got koozies for everything. Parties, birthdays, anniversaries, weddings. If you came to our wedding, you got a koozie when you left. We love a good koozie. If you go to my brother's house, he's probably got one for everybody in here to have one every day of the year. And I got to look in our housewarming koozies. The date was October 26, 2013. I was not married, did not have children at the time. We were not engaged yet. October 26, 2013. My son's birthday is October 26, 2015. And he was almost 2 when I realized the exact date of when everything happened. So it's not our time. And that's my main point, is that it doesn't really matter, because whatever is supposed to happen is going to happen. Nothing stands in the way of that. And part of it might be your plan, and part of it might not be. He was not my plan. But he is the biggest part of my life. And he's my biggest example of not being my plan. And again, we've had this conversation, so it doesn't hurt his feelings. He's the exact opposite of what I asked for. And I asked, believe me, many times. And then I got to the point where I stopped being specific and I said, send me who you need me to have. Send me who I'm supposed to be with. Send me my husband. 6 months later, the weekend that we moved into our new house, my husband showed up. I didn't know it then, but I knew it the first time we met, when I was late, and he still wanted to keep me. And he wanted to see me the next day, so I thought that was a good sign. And he hasn't left my side since. So again, I'm not coming from the ashes to say that I've done a 360, and it's not how my story goes. But I hope at least that you'll understand that again, it's not our time. Doesn't matter what your timeline is. I met Amber many, many years ago. Many years ago. I think I was 20, 21 at the time. I'm 34 now. That tells you anything. Many years ago. She's one of my best friends. If you've ever met her, you know that your life has been blessed, even for just a minute. Her youngest daughter is exactly a week older than my son. I found out I was pregnant. Promised my husband wouldn't say anything to anybody because he was on shift at the time. Couldn't not tell Amber. Text her and said, so this thing happened today, and sent her a picture, only to get a text message back. She was on her way back from the beach. I'll never forget it. And she said, I'm going home to take one too. Okay. And about 2 hours later, she texted me back and said that she was pregnant also. She had a C-section on Monday the 19th, and I had my C-section on Monday the 26th. So our kids are exactly a week apart. I got to be pregnant with my best friend, and there's nothing better than that. So, again, I just want you to hear me when I tell you that it's not our time. Nobody had more perfect timing than my husband did. And my son did. Especially now that I know he wasn't even supposed to be here. And I don't think God puts us through anything that we can't handle. Even though I was pretty convinced when I lost the second baby that I could not handle another one. I sent my husband something the other day that said, a strong marriage is not two people being strong at the same time. Rarely ever. But it's them taking turns being strong for each other when the other one is weak. And I don't think my marriage would work if it wasn't that way. Because there's nobody else that could hold me up more than he could then. I called my mom, I called my dad. And nobody could hold me up like my husband. It helps that he's 6'3". He holds me up pretty high. So just know that it's coming. Whatever it is that you're waiting for, or looking for, or not looking for, more than likely what you're not looking for is coming. At some point, the sunshine will come out from behind the cloud. And it may have a face, or it may be an act. Somebody may gift you something. One of my mom's best friends used to tell me she's really bad at seeing the small little road signs that God gives her. She's one of those that really needs a billboard. And my mom's always told me, don't be like Deanna and need a billboard. Pay attention to the little things, because you will see the sunshine coming if you pay attention to the little things. And it took me a long time to realize what those little things were. So pay attention to the little things, because it's coming. I hope that wasn't too long. I was trying to pay attention to the time. I'm really bad at it, like you are.
I've never had another church like this one. We had such loving people. And I'll tell you about last night. Not only was the Spirit here, the Father was here last night. And he's going to stay with this church. That is because this church and this congregation are doing the will of the Lord. That's all Jesus wanted to do, was the will of the Father. That's where this church is headed. And I love every one of you. And I asked him just for transportation. Boy, did he do it big. Pastor Bill called me and said, "You've had a car donated." I know the whole church was in on it. You don't have to tell me. I know. But I know where it came from. The Father did it. He uses people. He'll use people for what he wants to do, as long as you're doing his will. And that's exactly what was coming from this church. And I love every one of you, and I love this church. And I love the Lord first of all. Thank you.
I'll give Joe a big hand. I mean, Joe's 91 years old, and to hear that from a man that's been through a lot of stuff, that's a blessing to hear that from you. Okay, and thank you and Carolyn. He's not through with you, obviously. Well, and we thank God for that too, Joe. And Teresa, we're proud of you, very proud of you. We're dedicating your life last night and making it public this morning. Thank you for that. Casey, again, thank you so much. Jeff, my hat's off to you, brother. You're a good man. Y'all stand to your feet. Let's take somebody's hand beside you. Let's have a word of prayer. Scott, you can play that video. Just y'all keep it low in volume for me. What's up, big man? They said you. You know, I've never seen you except pregnant, so this is going to be interesting when this is over. Seriously, think about it, okay? I was looking at you. You came in today, and I'm going, ever since I met her, she was pregnant. That means I've been here through at least about half of the pregnancy. Sir? Yes, sir. Well, and I kind of like how Casey said it. She was just decorating it a little bit. Told the stories, that's right. I always told my girls, I get no tattoos. Every one of them got one. Yeah. Okay, well, I'll just pray now. I'll bow your heads. Father, we thank you today for the opportunity to be here in your house. Lord, thank you for, I'm going to call it a message that Casey brought us this morning, Lord, and what a testimony. Father, thank you for what you've done in their life, in her life, his life, the child's. Lord, bless them all every way that you possibly can. Lord, they highly deserve it. And Lord, thank you for fixing everything. Like I said, Lord, like that verse said, you know, we can, our heart plan stuff for us, but you put the steps out there and we got to follow. It's not about us, it's about you completely. But Father, we ask that you continue to love us every day. Bless this church. Thank you for our evening last night with a Thanksgiving dinner. And Lord, thank you for folks being here today, and be with those that are out with sicknesses, Napoleon family, and also with Shawnette that's not here today. Lord, bless her and her family, and those others that were not able to make it. God, be with us tonight as we come back for our evening service. Be with Miss Connie, Lord, as she has struggled today and the last 3 or 4 days with her being in the hospital with her lung issues. Father, I believe she has gone home today or yesterday afternoon. Lord, touch her and heal her. Continue to do so with her issues of her medical. Father, I ask you again today to bless this church in every way that you can, every way. Brother Kevin, if you would close us out in a word of prayer.
Don't know what tomorrow will bring. I can't tell you what's in store.